think we probably could have continued that conversation for another hour, but we did commit to all of you to wrap up our event in time for many of you to catch last flights out of Syracuse, New York today. So to close us out, I'd like to invite my boss, Chancellor Syverud, back to the podium.
So this is not going to take 20 minutes because I really thank Corey Shake for such a great follow-up and next steps discussion. I do want to thank everybody for participating because I learned so much, and I suspect many of us did from the panels and talks and breakouts. As always, when there's anybody from the Department of Defense present, I learned new acronyms. I now know what E5 means. And I also learned some new facts that are incredibly useful to my job because you have no idea how frequently in higher education someone tells me they can't change because we're an aircraft carrier and it takes 2 years to turn it around. And now, thanks to President Carter, I can say it actually takes 2 minutes. Okay, so, and I also got some consolation in a funny sense from hearing, you know, I'm used to hearing university presidents talk about how faculty sometimes can be difficult, and it's somewhat reassuring to hear military folks say sometimes commanding officers can be difficult, and to hear corporate leaders say sometimes managers can be difficult. So maybe we're more alike than we realize. But the way we're more alike here in this room is there are people in this room, in academia, in government, in private enterprise, who are a coalition of the willing, who actually care about our culture of service through the military and what it creates for the country. And I met a lot of them today, and I think we can work together for the common good, and that's special. This summit was never intended to be a one and done. It was intended to be a call to action on critical issues facing our military, and we didn't know exactly when we started on it what those issues would be. And it was also a belief that by getting us together, we'd identify some we could work on and make meaningful progress that wouldn't take a 10-year strategic plan or a committee 10 years of meetings. And like any successful summit, it's gone in some very interesting directions, and there needs to be some common steps coming from it and action plans, and I really think Corey helped us do a lot of that. Mike asked me to concisely summarize everything we heard in the last 24 hours in terms of next steps, and I'm not going to do that. But I'm just going to say one thing for me that came out of it. What came out of it most for me is a focus different than on veterans after they become veterans, but on what produces across the whole lifespan the sort of active citizen who's done military service, who has built and maintained this country. And from that, I heard mostly we need concrete steps to create varied, attractive, and clear pathways to opportunities for enlisted personnel. And we need to tell stories about those if we expect our enlisted system to continue working. Okay, so we need varied, attractive, and clear pathways to opportunity for our enlisted personnel, and we need to tell stories about them. And those pathways need to include much less siloed cooperation and moving back and forth in creative ways between jobs, between academia, and between the military. And I just want to illustrate that. I thought about that hard enough last night to at least create one slide, so if we could advance to slide one. I want to tell a story about two Syracuse students because there's so many similarities between them and one difference. They look not that different, I suspect, to you two white guys, right? But first, the similarities. The guy on your left is MP for Michael Patrick. He's a local kid here, the son of a doctor. He came to Syracuse to major in biology and minor in policy studies in the Maxwell School in Arts and Sciences. He did really well academically. He changed his major to physics. He also grabbed a lot of opportunities to grow at this university. He's a senior now. As you can see, probably he's a pitcher for the club baseball team. He's traveled widely. He gave history lectures at Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame. And next year he's going to enter medical school and also plans simultaneously to go into a business school program at the Darden School at UVA because he's interested in starting a health-related business. Okay, so then there's the guy on your right, and that's Dan. Dan is the son of a farmer and a nurse. He came to Syracuse to major and graduate in biology, too. He did finish in biology. He did really well academically. Like MP, he also grabbed many opportunities at this place. He participated in sports. He traveled widely. He became fluent in Spanish, which he did not speak at all upon his arrival. And this year, he graduates from Georgetown Medical School, and he is already planning to start a health-related business. So those are the similarities. The differences between them, MP came right here from high school, and Dan, out of high school, what do you think? He enlisted in the Marine Corps and served multiple tours of duty in Afghanistan as a reconnaissance team leader, as a scout sniper. Along the way, he earned a Purple Heart and a really odd array of college credits. And then he struggled to get admitted and accepted to Syracuse University as a transfer student. So the point I want to make about those two students is there are hundreds and hundreds of kids with stories like MP's at colleges in this country. That is the traditional pathway, really well defined for that opportunity, the medical school opportunity. We do this very well in higher education. But Dan had to build a bespoke pathway, okay? A kid going from high school to enlistment to combat duty to grab bag of college credits, some from for-profit, some from various places, and then to college, then to professional school. That's hard, okay? Building that pathway is extraordinarily difficult. And so I think it's realistic to say ambitious, hardworking kids, patriotic kids in high school often don't have any clear knowledge of what they want to do or the clear path to get there. And the route to enlisting is sure one choice, but it's a hard choice if you're ambitious, if you want the opportunities that many of the students I teach here want. And so I've told this story to friends in higher education, no one here, I don't think. And the response has been a little sobering, because you can imagine if you've not been exposed to enlisted personnel in higher education, if you're not in the tiny fraction of the population that has people serving now, the reaction of many in academia is, it isn't said this way, but I'll say it bluntly, but these enlisted kids just aren't the same academic material, okay? That's what they're thinking. I just want to say, that's what they are thinking, okay? And I think all of you after this conference and from your lifetime work, you know that just ain't true, okay? You know they are incredible material, and they're the material the country needs. And so what I'd ask is that if we do one thing out of this conference, is some of us work on how we're going to create flexible, nimble, different, non-normal, but well-defined and clear pathways to opportunities, not just a medical school, but to the corporations that are present here and to the opportunities that are most important to high school kids and people in their 20s and up to 29, I guess, what are most important to them that affect their decision whether to serve our country as enlisted. I think if we do that, this one thing in addition to all those other 7 things, if we do that one thing, if we pilot some of those, this conference will have seemed worthwhile to me. So I ask you to help with that. I don't know how exactly to do it. This wasn't going to be a one and done, so I'm looking forward to the University of Tennessee and Montana and Nebraska figuring out how and where we meet next and what we do in between. But I thank you all for helping so much, and we're going to work forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Chancellor Syverud, and thank you for your support and partnership and leadership over these past 9 years in support of this mission. So I have 3 concluding requests of you in just our last few minutes together. First, There are many folks on my team at the university who you didn't see up on stage today, but who worked very hard to bring us all together and put this event together. So my first request is that you join me in recognizing Adam and Isaac and Kim and Ron and Janice and Tina and many others who supported this event while you were on campus with a round of applause. My second request relates to, what the Chancellor foreshadowed a little bit, relates to what's next. Over the next few weeks, our team here is going to summarize the major themes, the insights, recommendations stemming from today's conversation. I think we have Terry's list and Corey's list and probably other lists, but we're going to provide that summary back to all of you. And with your input and hopefully with the input from our partners at DoD and VA, we're going to work to identify specific and actionable lines of effort associated with those issues and opportunities, and that really the ones that represent, at least initially, the highest potential for meaningful impact and change and innovation, both in terms of higher ed practice, but also public sector policy. And we will propose a strategy to engage, hopefully in partnership with all of you, in that work over the course of the next year. So more to follow on that front. And then finally, my third request, and this is specific to the higher education representatives in the room, is ask that you be evangelists for this effort. It is wonderful to see how many higher ed leaders accepted our invitation to participate in this conversation. At the same time, I will tell you, there's a great many more who did not. And we talked extensively today about the importance of storytelling, and I would ask all of you to tell the story of the past 24 hours as well, and help us bring others to this table. So thanks again for joining us today, for your commitment to this work, and safe travels home. Thank you very much.